At my mother-in-law's birthday party aboard a private yacht off the coast of Capri, my name wasn't on the seating chart. My husband let out a light chuckle. Oops, must have been a mistake. And the entire Fitzgerald family laughed, champagne glasses clinking. I smiled, stood up slowly, and said, "Well, clearly I was never truly on board." Then I turned and walked away from the glittering celebration. 30 minutes later, as they toasted Victoria, they realized the yacht staff had begun clearing everything. The floral arrangements, the dinner service, even the live quartet. The entire event had been called off. Their laughter faded into stunned silence. "Well, clearly I was never truly on board," I repeated when Damien chased after me on the dock, his face pale with panic. My voice was calm, but inside, something had cracked, and something else had awakened. Damien's chuckle, "Oops, must have been a mistake," still rang in my ears. But it wasn't a mistake. It was a message, the message that I didn't matter. And I had 30 minutes before they'd realize I'd canceled everything through the event coordination platform I built myself. 30 minutes was more than enough. Before we begin, thank you for being here. If you've ever felt invisible, pushed aside, or underestimated, this story is for you. Before we witness Lara's journey, from elite event planner to a woman reclaiming her voice, don't forget to subscribe and be part of a community that honors courage, growth, and quiet power. My name is Lara Bennett Westwood. 5 years ago, I was just Lara Bennett, founder of Solstice and Sage, the luxury event company behind Boston's most unforgettable soirees. I built my business from the ground up, putting myself through business school with no help from anyone. Every lavish yacht soiree, every seamless corporate launch, every private island wedding bore my invisible signature. My name, Lara Bennett Westwood, was synonymous with elegance, precision, and discretion. Boston's elite didn't just hire me for results. They hired me because I knew how to keep their secrets. And that's how I met Damien Fitzgerald at a high-profile fundraiser for coastal conservation, hosted aboard a 200-foot yacht moored in the Boston harbor. Damien, with his tailored linen suit, perfectly tousled hair, and the quiet entitlement of someone born into wealth, exuded the confidence of old money. But when he looked at me, it wasn't with condescension, it was with curiosity. "So you're the one behind this?" he said, glancing around at the candlelit deck, string quartet, and sea glass-inspired centerpieces. "My mother's planning her birthday cruise in Europe. I think I've just found her planner." From that first event, I became the Fitzgeralds' go-to consultant. Their lineage stretched across centuries, with fortunes built on transatlantic shipping and private banking. They had the kind of influence that never needed to boast, money so old, it barely had a cent. Damien and I began dating 6 months later. He pursued me like a campaign, persistent, polished, and always composed. There were warning signs, of course. The way Victoria, his mother, inspected me as if I were an unvetted addition to the family estate. The way people raised eyebrows when they realized I wasn't one of them. "You've done quite well for yourself," Victoria said during our first dinner together, her voice clipped and elegant. "Self-made? Very American." Her compliment held the sharpness of a blade. I ignored it. I told myself Damien was different, more modern, less obsessed with lineage. So when he proposed after 11 months, I said yes, even as part of me whispered that I would always be an outsider to them. The wedding, of course, became the most talked about social event of the season. I planned most of it myself, not trusting anyone else with such an important day. Victoria had an opinion on everything. The venue wasn't traditional enough. The menu was too adventurous. The guest list lacked key names from East Coast society. I compromised where I could and held my ground where it mattered. Damien always played the peacemaker, but I noticed he rarely stood up to his mother. After the wedding, the subtle undermining became more systematic. Though the Fitzgeralds continued to use my company for their events, they frequently questioned my decisions, made last-minute changes, and took credit for my ideas at family gatherings. My input was asked for, then disregarded. My business, my life's work, was treated like a quaint little hobby. "She has such a knack for design," Victoria would say to her friends, patting my hand as if I were a child. "Like having a personal event stylist on board." Damien never defended me. He would just sigh later and say, "Don't take it to heart. That's just how Mum is." The chance to organize Victoria's 70th birthday on a yacht off the Amalfi Coast should have been a dream project, an opulent week-long celebration at sea. I poured everything into it: the guest list, the floral installations, private chefs flown in from Capri, and an exclusive performance from an opera singer. But cracks had already begun to form beneath the surface. Invoices went unpaid. Vendors grew impatient. When I asked Damien, he brushed it off, said the family office was handling things, that it was just currency delays with Italian banks. But one night, while he was asleep in our stateroom, I saw an email open on his iPad. Reports of misallocated funds, leveraged assets, clients pulling out. The Fitzgerald fortune was fraying at the seams. Still, I kept going. Even used my business's line of credit to cover expenses, telling myself it was only temporary, that Damien would explain, that it would be fine after the party. Then, on the morning we boarded the yacht, I saw a message flash on Damien's phone. I'd never snooped before, but something in my gut shifted. It was from S. "Counting the days till I see you. Did you tell her yet?" My breath caught. I opened the thread. Selena Santouch, his ex, the one his mother never stopped bringing up, the one they'd always hoped he'd end up with. They'd been talking for months. Future plans. A baby, their baby, due in 4 months. I screenshot everything, sent it to myself, and quietly deleted the evidence. Then I walked back out to the dock, put on a practiced smile, and helped Victoria into the tender boat with a glass of Prosecco in hand. That was the moment something shifted. Not a breakdown. A decision. Now standing on the deck of the yacht, just offshore from Positano, I had made my decision. I wouldn't confront Damien before the party. I would let things unfold exactly as they were meant to. And when they did, I would be ready. Our plane landed at Fucino Airport just as a golden sunset bathed the sky. I had arranged private transportation for the entire Fitzgerald party, Damien's parents, Victoria. I bit my tongue. Again. The hotel service was overbooked. "These are from Lux Transport, the same company used by the Prime Minister when he's in Rome." She didn't respond. She was already whispering with Melfores, turning her back to me. The yacht was everything I had promised. Sleek, modern, extravagant. My months of meticulous planning showed in every detail: personalized welcome baskets, room assignments curated to preferences, a daily schedule printed on linen paper. Victoria barely glanced at the itinerary before tossing it onto a chaise. "Oh, we'll just do whatever. This family knows Italy better than any tour guide." Our suite was spectacular, a terrace that opened to the endless sea, fresh orchids in every room, and a bottle of Damien's favorite Brunello waiting in a silver cooler. But almost instantly, his phone buzzed. Without a word, he stepped out onto the deck. "Work?" I asked when he came back in. "Investment updates," he muttered. "You should get dressed. Dinner's soon." That night's welcome dinner should have been a celebration. Instead, I was seated at the far end of the long white-clothed table, wedged between an uncle and a bored teenager. Damien was at the other end, laughing easily, glass raised. Inside jokes flew across the table. Italian memories I wasn't part of. When I tried to join a conversation about the next day's tour, Mara cut in. "Oh, Lara, we actually decided to go shopping tomorrow with the family. You don't mind, do you?" "Shopping? With the family?" I echoed. Victoria smiled over her wine glass. "It's our little tradition, darling. You'd find it tedious. Better if you double-check the birthday arrangements. That's more your style." So it went. Each day, Damien left early without a word. Group outings happened without me. Conversations hushed when I entered the room. Dinner plans accidentally excluded me. Dinner reservations mysteriously changed to include old friends who happened to be in Rome. People who looked at me with that particular blend of curiosity and pity, as if assessing how I might react. On the third morning, Damien left in a rush and forgot to latch his leather briefcase. Inside, I found what I wasn't supposed to see. Draft separation papers, prepared by the Fitzgerald family lawyer, dated 2 months ago. A proposed settlement, insulting in its brevity. And worst of all, a script, a literal script, outlining how Damien would announce our separation at Victoria's birthday dinner. Peaceful, mutual, well-rehearsed. My hands shook as I photographed every page. They weren't just casting me aside, they were staging a theatrical exit. From that moment, I played a new role, the perfect daughter-in-law, all smiles and poise. But in private, I hunted. I found offshore transfers, emails hinting at imminent asset liquidation, a handwritten note from Victoria. "Make sure she signs without a scene. Last thing we need is public embarrassment." They underestimated me. I didn't scream. I didn't weep. I went back to finalizing the floral delivery and confirming the artisanal cake. Victoria's birthday wasn't just a party, it was the quiet burial of my identity as a Fitzgerald. Instead of confronting Damien, I channeled my fury into precision. Cold, methodical, surgical. Every day on the yacht, I found subtle ways to slip away from the family's curated excursions and champagne-fueled brunches to search our suite. It didn't take long. I uncovered bank statements tucked in Damien's travel bag, large transfers to offshore accounts in the Caymans, and obscure trusts registered in Panama. On his tablet, I found emails referencing liquidation strategies before the noise hits the press, and discussions about silencing a disgruntled investor in London. Tucked between the pages of a book was Victoria's elegant cursive, a note that simply read, "She won't last. Keep it clean. No scandal." I maintained the image of the devoted wife and tireless event planner, checking in with the catering team, reviewing the evening's menu with the chef, confirming the string quartet's arrival, all while building a case strong enough to dismantle the empire they thought I'd never understand. When Damien's sister asked why I seemed distracted, I smiled and blamed logistics. "You know how it is with these kinds of events," I said lightly. But in truth, I was focused on every document, every quiet thread of evidence, every encrypted trail that could be traced. The morning of Victoria's birthday dawned bright and deceptively serene. The yacht had docked just off the coast of Capri, floating like a palace on water. I slipped out of bed before Damien stirred, crossed the polished teak floors of our stateroom, and sent encrypted emails from my laptop, first to my attorney, then to the investigator I'd hired under another pretense. As the planner, I had to arrive at the yacht early to make sure everything was perfect. I was in the yacht's private lounge finalizing the guest list when I heard Victoria's voice from the upper deck. The corridor was narrow, and her voice echoed down clearly. "There will only be 12 seats, not 13, she said curtly. "I don't care what the original layout said. The final seating plan was approved by Damien. His wife won't be attending. It's already been handled. No need to ask questions." My hands froze. So this was it. The chair I thought was missing wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. A quiet erasure of my presence. They weren't just excluding me. They were erasing me before making it official. I closed my notebook slowly, rose to my feet, and walked calmly back to the master cabin. Every step felt heavier than the last. But my mind? Crystal clear. If they wanted a grand spectacle, then I would give them one. But it wouldn't be the one Victoria envisioned. As the sun dipped behind the Roman coastline, the yacht glowed with golden light. I walked the deck like it was my runway, checking every corner. The crystal glassware, the floral arrangements with white orchids and cream peonies, the private quartet rehearsing softly in the background. Every detail screamed elegance. Every moment, precision. A party worthy of royalty, if only they knew it was a prelude to war. Marco, the yacht manager, approached me discreetly. "Ms. Westwood, will everything meet Mrs. Fitzgerald's expectations?" "It's flawless," I replied, smiling. "Let's give her a night she'll never forget." Back in my cabin, I changed into the midnight blue Valentino gown I had chosen for this exact moment. My reflection stared back at me. Not a woman discarded, but a woman reborn. 5 years of trying to fit into a family that never wanted me had sharpened me, not shattered me. I arrived in the lounge just as the Fitzgeralds gathered for the official departure. Victoria, dripping in diamonds and vintage couture, cast a glance my way. I smiled. Tonight, the performance will begin, and I would no longer play the supporting role. Damien's eyes widened slightly when he saw me, maybe remembering what once attracted him in the first place, or maybe calculating how long he had left before he could be free of me. "Darling Lara, you look beautiful," Victoria said, brushing a ghost of a kiss against my cheek. "We're just waiting for the car." The ride to the dock was short and filled with hollow small talk about the day's activities, things I had been deliberately excluded from. As we stepped onto the yacht, Damien placed his hand on the small of my back, a gesture that once meant intimacy, but now served only as performance to keep up appearances for the crew. The upper deck was bathed in golden light from the sunset, transforming the scene into something almost cinematic. The table was set with crystal, linen, and glowing candles, an elegant dinner beneath the stars. Victoria stepped forward first, greeted by a wave of applause from the assembled family members. One by one, they moved toward the long banquet table I had personally designed, a table that was supposed to have 13 seats. I followed Damien closely, until we reached the place where my name should have been. But there was nothing. No chair, no name card, not even a trace that I had ever been part of this evening. I stood frozen for a moment, a living statue of confusion and quiet rage. Conversations continued, laughter, glasses clinking. No one acknowledged the missing seat. A waiter glanced at me awkwardly, recognizing the mistake but unsure what to do. "Is something wrong?" Victoria asked, her voice silkily innocent, but just loud enough. "It appears there's been a mistake," I replied, my voice smooth, controlled. "My seat is missing." And just like that, the scene began, perfectly choreographed. Mara frowned. "Did someone miscount?" Mel first cleared his throat. Maybe a mix-up with the crew. Then came Damien's line, delivered so naturally it chilled me. "Oh, maybe we just miscounted," he said with a shrug and a soft chuckle. There was laughter, muted, rehearsed. In that moment, everything sharpened. I saw them, all of them, for who they truly were. This wasn't a mistake. This was the grand finale of their performance. But they had underestimated me. I let my gaze travel slowly around the table, meeting each face. Victoria, triumphant behind her birthday smile. Richard, uneasy but complicit. Mara and Tom, entertained by the show. Their wives, smart enough to feel embarrassed, but not brave enough to protest. And Damien, my husband, the man who once promised to stand by me against the world, now looks at me with cool curiosity, like a scientist watching an experiment unfold. I could have made a scene. I could have demanded a chair, exposed their plan in front of the staff, created a dramatic spectacle that would be retold for generations. That's what they expected, what they were prepared for. Victoria would comfort Damien about his unstable wife, and the divorce narrative would write itself. Instead, I straightened my back, held my head high, and said the words that marked the beginning of my reclaiming of power. "It seems I'm not family." 4 words, simple, devastating in their truth. Their smiles froze. Damien's expression shifted from smugness to uncertainty. I had stepped off their script. "I'll see myself out," I said, turning with the quiet dignity that had shielded me throughout this marriage. "Lara, don't overreact," Damien called after me, another line from their prepared dialogue. "We can fix this." I didn't answer. I walked past the yacht crew, nodding politely to those who had witnessed my public erasure. In the elevator down to the marina, I finally took a deep breath, then another. By the time I stepped onto the dock, my hands were no longer trembling. A small cafe facing the yacht offered the perfect vantage point. I ordered an espresso and pulled out my phone. This was the moment I had been preparing for. 30 minutes of freedom while the Fitzgeralds toasted their success at ridding themselves of their inconvenient daughter-in-law. First, I sent a pre-drafted email to Marco, the yacht's event manager. Attached were documents proving my authority as the account holder and planner, along with instructions to terminate the evening's arrangements. Next, I made the calls. The Vineyard is scheduled for lunch tomorrow. The Vatican private tour for the following day. The captain for the Amalfi Coast sunset cruise. The Tuscan villa for their final weekend. One by one, I canceled everything. Deposits I had paid with my company's credit line were rerouted back to my business account. With each cancellation, I felt a little lighter. Emails from Damien started coming in. First annoyed, then confused, and then, slowly, panicked. I ignored them all. 28 minutes after leaving the yacht, I finished my espresso and paid the bill. It was time for the final act. I stood, smoothed the fabric of my Valentino gown, and crossed the street back toward the yacht. I entered via the crew access door, a route I had memorized during setup. Marco greeted me with a worried expression. "Mrs. Westwood, are you sure about this? It's highly unusual." "I'm sure, Marco, and I appreciate your discretion." I handed him a sealed envelope with the official cancellation and withdrawal of financial guarantee. The Fitzgerald family will need to provide a new payment method to continue the evening. Marco nodded solemnly. In the events world, relationships are everything. I had worked with Marco 3 times before, coordinating for Boston-based clients visiting Rome. He owed me a favor, and while he likely found my request unusual, professional courtesy dictated his compliance. When should I inform them? I'll text you in 5 minutes. I want to observe from a discreet spot. He led me to a quiet alcove near the kitchen with a full view of the party. The Fitzgeralds were mid-toast, champagne glasses raised, faces aglow, and they had no idea. The empire they built on appearances was about to sink, one cancellation at a time. High-end hospitality vendors operate within a tightly knit network of mutual trust and references. As the event planner who made all the arrangements and guaranteed the deposits using my company's credit line, I had the authority to alter everything. The digital trail, emails, contracts, payment confirmations, bore my name and signature, not Victoria's or Damien's. My phone buzzed. A new message from Damien. Lara, where are you? Stop being childish and come back. Then another. Mom's upset. You're making a fool of yourself. I didn't respond. Instead, I messaged Carmen at the luxury villa in Capri, where the family had planned to dock for the Tuscany leg of the voyage. Carmen confirmed the cancellation and wished me luck, adding that the generous tip I'd left for her staff would be refunded separately to my business account. My phone buzzed again, with more messages from Damien, now in rapid succession. The concierge just radioed us. They said our Capri reservation was canceled. What are you doing, Lara? This is insane. Call me now. This isn't a joke. I messaged Marco. You may proceed. From my hidden vantage point on the upper deck of the yacht, I watched Marco approach the dining area with 2 other staff members. He leaned down to whisper something to Melforez, seated at the head of the long candlelit table across from Victoria. The family continued eating, initially unfazed. But Melforez's expression shifted, from mild interest to confusion, then concern. He pulled out his wallet and spoke animatedly to Marco. The restaurant manager shook his head and pointed to something on his tablet. By now, the entire table sensed something was wrong. Victoria set down her fork, her usual regal calm cracking ever so slightly. Damien was staring at his phone, likely reading my most recent message. All deposits have been returned to my company's account. All arrangements for the week have been canceled. Your family's financial troubles are about to go public. Enjoy the caviar. The scene unfolded like a perfectly choreographed ballet of chaos. Melforez stood, his face flushed. Rage, shame, or both. Victoria's hand flew to her diamond necklace like it might anchor her. Mara leaned over, whispering frantically. Tom pulled out his phone, likely trying to verify the disaster unraveling around them. And Damien. He sat frozen, pale as the moonlit sea. He understood all of it. He knew what I'd discovered. And what would happen if Victoria's friends learned the Fitzgeralds couldn't even pay for dinner, let alone the illusion of wealth they'd clung to for decades. My phone rang. Damien was calling now, no more texts. I declined the call and watched him abruptly rise, nearly knocking over his chair. Lara, he hissed, his voice caught between rage and desperation. What the hell are you doing? Seems I'm not family, I replied smoothly. So I'm not responsible for the family celebrations. You need to fix this. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for my mother, for all of us? I understand perfectly, Damien. That was the point. Where are you? His tone changed. He sounded desperate now. We need to talk. I can explain about Selena, about everything. I'm sure you can. Look, I've seen the financial reports, Damien. I've read the emails. I know the Fitzgerald fortune is collapsing, and I know you've been moving assets offshore ahead of filing for divorce. His sharp intake of breath told me everything. He had never expected me to find out, He, like the rest of his family, had underestimated me, had underestimated me. That's private. Yes. Like the messages from Selena about the baby. Like the little script you had prepared to announce our divorce at your mother's birthday party. Like the seating chart that conveniently left me out. Silence on the other end. I watched the restaurant manager now addressing the whole table as nearby diners began paying close attention. The Fitzgeralds' humiliation was turning into a public performance, exactly the kind they had intended for me. Lara, please. Damien's voice had lost all its aristocratic calm. You don't understand what this is going to do to us. Oh, I understand perfectly. That's exactly why I did it. We can fix this. Come back to the villa. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. No, Damien. I don't think we can fix this. I ended the call and stepped out from hiding. It was time for my final entrance. As I approached the deck, 12 heads turned toward me, some angry, some terrified, all stunned. Victoria was the first to speak, her voice shaking with fury. How dare you ruin my birthday? I smiled, a strange calm washing over me. I learned from the best, Victoria. Isn't this what you wanted for me? A public humiliation, a clean exit? I just rewrote the ending. Mel Forrest shot to his feet, beet red. This is outrageous. You have no right. I have every right, I said, cutting him off. Every contract, every deposit, every booking, under my name, or my company's. I simply revised the itinerary. You'll regret this, Mara spat. When Damien divorces you, you'll have nothing. That's where you're wrong, I said, locking eyes with Damien. I have copies of everything, the offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the shell companies. I'm sure the press will find it illuminating. Their faces drained of color. As the full weight of it sank in, I didn't feel triumph. Not vengeance either, just peace. And then I turned my back on the Fitzgerald family for the final time. The next morning, I left Italy, upgraded to first class using points I had accumulated from planning the Fitzgeralds' past vacations. The irony was not lost on me. Behind me, I left a family in full crisis, their carefully curated facade crumbling in real time. From the hotel front desk, I learned that the Fitzgeralds had paid for dinner by offering Victoria's vintage Bulgari necklace as collateral until a wire transfer could be arranged the next morning. Word spread fast in Rome's luxury hospitality circuit. The once proud American family was struggling to pay its bills. Word spread fast in Rome's luxury hospitality circuit. The once proud American family was struggling to pay its bills. The remaining vendors I hadn't yet canceled personally began requesting advance payment rather than trusting promises. My phone buzzed constantly with messages, some threatening, some pleading. I read them during my layover in London, sipping Earl Grey in the British Airways lounge. Mel Forrest, this is grounds for legal action. Our lawyers will be in touch. Mara, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. Tom, do you really think you can humiliate our family without consequences? Victoria's message was the most transparent. I always knew you were low class. This vicious display only proves everything I've said about you from the start. But it was Damien's messages that told the real story of a family in free fall. First of all, you don't know what you've done. My father just had a minor heart attack. Is that what you wanted? Then Prescott and Whitmore saw everything. Do you know what that means for our status? Then the hotel asked for full payment in advance for the rest of the week. They said all previous guarantees were revoked. And finally, his last message. Please, Lara, I need to talk to you. This isn't just about us anymore. I didn't respond to any of the messages. Instead, I forwarded the financial documents I'd collected to my attorney, with instructions to keep them safe until needed. If Fitzgerald pursued legal action, I'd be ready. When I returned home to my new apartment in Beacon Hill, I had hired a moving company to pack up my personal belongings. I only took what was unequivocally mine: the clothes, the jewelry I had purchased myself, my collection of first edition books, and the pieces of art I had acquired before the marriage. Everything else, including wedding gifts and jointly purchased items, I left behind. I didn't want anything that could tether me to the web of deception that was the Fitzgerald family. 2 days later, the Boston Globe ran a small article in the Society section titled "Investment Group Faces Investigation." The piece mentioned financial irregularities and questions raised by investors. It didn't make the front page, but it was enough to send ripples through Boston's social circles. Damien showed up at my new apartment unannounced, 1 week after I returned from Rome. He looked worn down, the polished veneer replaced by genuine desperation. "The SEC is investigating my father's accounts. 2 board members have resigned. My mother had to cancel her charity gala because 3 major donors pulled out." "Sounds like a Fitzgerald family problem," I replied. "Not mine." "It's your problem if I go down with the ship," he snapped. "We're still married. My debts are your debts." I allowed myself a small smile. "Not when I have proof that you deliberately excluded me from financial decisions and concealed assets with the intent to defraud me in the divorce. My lawyer assures me that's enough to shield me." Damien's mask fully crumbled. He sank onto my sofa, head in his hands. "I didn't want it to come to this." "What did you want, Damien? To marry me for my event planning skills? To use me to manage your social calendar while you rekindle things with Selena? Then discard me when I stop being useful?" "It wasn't like that in the beginning," he said quietly. "I loved you, but not enough to stand up to my family. Not enough to be honest with you about the relationship." I sat across from him, feeling oddly calm. "When's the baby due?" His head jerked up, eyes wide. 4 months, I said, according to the messages I saw. "Congratulations." A heavy silence settled between us. Outside, rain began tapping against the windows of my new apartment. Smaller than the old house, but mine, paid for by the profits of a business I had built without Fitzgerald money or influence. "I'll give you anything you want, Lara," he finally said. "Just hand over those documents and sign an NDA. Name your price." That was the moment I realized. The Fitzgeralds never understood me. Not then. Not now. Even after 5 years, they saw me as someone who could be bought, driven by the same material concerns as they were. "I don't want your money, Damien. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged." I stood up, signaling the conversation was over. "The documents stay with my lawyer, unless you try to drag me down with you." The divorce terms are simple. I leave with what's mine, you with what's yours. And Selena, the baby. His voice was barely audible. "That's between you and your conscience. Let's hope you're a better husband to her than you were to me." After he left, I stood at the window, watching the rain grow heavier. The scandal slowly unfurled in the following weeks. The Boston Globe ran a more detailed piece on the Fitzgerald Investment Group's financial irregularities. Longtime clients quietly pulled their money out. Victoria's seat on 3 prestigious charity boards was changed to emeritus, rather than active involvement. Selena's pregnancy became public knowledge when she was spotted at an OB/GYN clinic, wearing an engagement ring. The timeline confirmed their relationship had resumed well before my marriage ended. In Boston's high society, infidelity could be tolerated if it remained discreet, but blatant misconduct violated the unspoken codes. My business thrived, perhaps because of, or at least aided by, the scandal. Those who once dismissed me now valued my discretion and integrity. The circulating story was not of a woman scorned, but of a professional who refused to be used and discarded. 6 months later, I received an invitation that made me laugh aloud, a request for a bid to plan Victoria Fitzgerald's next charity event. Desperation has finally eclipsed pride, I murmured. I politely declined, citing a full calendar. The divorce was finalized without further drama. The Fitzgeralds, focused on salvaging their reputation and finances, accepted my terms without protest. Damien and Selena married quietly. Their daughter was born 2 weeks later. I didn't send a gift to commemorate the anniversary of that night in Rome. Instead, I found myself planning another event in Italy, a celebrity wedding on the Amalfi Coast. As I stood on a terrace overlooking the Mediterranean, phone in hand and vendors at my fingertips, I realized something unexpected. I was happy, not despite my marriage ending, but because of it. The Fitzgerald family had tried to make me feel small, reduce me to a mere accessory in their grand narrative. Instead, they had accidentally freed me to reclaim my own story. In losing what I thought I wanted, I had found what I truly needed, not acceptance from a family determined to reject me, but the courage to reject a life built on appearances. I raised my glass to the sunset, drinking to the empty seat that had shown me exactly where I belonged.